Hello, everyone. I'm very, very happy to welcome you to the live broadcast of the Breakthrough Lab 2020 Student Venture debut. My name is Jason Harry. I'm the director of the Breakthrough Lab, which is a program of the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship here at Brown University. I wish I could say that we're broadcasting from Providence, Rhode Island, but it's more than that. We're broadcasting certainly from Providence, but we're also broadcasting from Boston, from the West Coast, from the center of the country. We have students literally all over the United States. At present, we don't have any internationally, but we're very, very pleased to welcome all of you from wherever you are to the B-Lab debut. I want to tell you just a little bit about B-Lab, and then we're going to drop into some of the guest speakers. Before doing that, I wanted to just acknowledge that the way this is going to roll out is we're hoping the main programming to be about 1 hour. We have a special guest that we're going to be interviewing here on screen. Then the student ventures will go. At the end of the hour, we will be publishing a special link that will allow you to directly access the Zoom rooms of each of the 15 ventures individually, and you'll be able to pop in and out of those as you wish. There'll be more about that right at the very end of the hour. Well, so I wanted just to say a couple of quick words about the Breakthrough Lab. We are in our 6th year of the Breakthrough Lab at Brown University. This is a student venture accelerator. Sometimes we call it accelerator, sometimes incubator. But the idea of the Breakthrough Lab is to provide a platform for student entrepreneurs at the university and in certain circumstances from allied universities that are part of ventures. It's a selection process that we run in the spring. We settle on a cohort in March, April, and May. And this year, obviously, we're running the Breakthrough Lab as an online experience. We have found that it's been quite effective and successful thus far. And what we're in tonight is as a traditional event that we run every year, where we just have the ventures quickly introduce themselves and what they're talking about. What you're going to see in these ventures are quite early stage. These are ventures that are from the minds and the passions of the students. These are not faculty or local businesses who have employed students to do things. These are ventures that are very much from the students. They have begun B-Lab at a variety of different stages. Some of them are very, very early stage. Others are a little bit further along, but all of them are what we call in the Nelson Center ventures that can have impact at scale. And I think you'll share that enthusiasm when you see what the students are working on. Before our special guest, I want to bring a pre-special guest to the front. We have a very, very dear Technology Fund. That's a local venture capital fund here in Rhode Island. And I'd like to introduce Thorne Sparkman, who is the managing director of the Slater Technology Fund. Thorne has been a great partner for B-Lab and entrepreneurship in the state of Rhode Island. So just want to acknowledge Thorne and welcome him. Hi, Thorne.
Hey, guys. Good to see you. Thanks, Jason, and warm welcome to everyone. On behalf of the Slater Technology Fund, Rhode Island's oldest and most active seed fund, it's a distinct honor to be here with you guys and welcome the cohort of entrepreneurs. And I look forward to getting to know all of you guys this summer.
Great. Thanks, Thorne. Appreciate it. In fact, what normally happens with the Slater Technology Fund is that they host a sushi event. We chose not to try to ship sushi all over the world for this, but we really do appreciate your partnership, Thorne, over the many years. So thanks so much. It's a great pleasure now for me to welcome one of our most special founding teams that have been part of the Nelson Center from the very beginning. I'd like to welcome Sam and Mariah Calagione. They are the co-founders of Dogfish Head. That is, I think it's fair to say, a pioneering craft beer company. They started a number of years ago, and I actually happen to know exactly how many number of years ago, because we're very proud to have them here tonight as we can help them celebrate their 25th anniversary in business. So it's a great pleasure to welcome both of you to B Lab. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. Sorry we can't be with you all in real life, but this is a good alternative for this year, so thanks for having me.
You seem very real to me. Well, so what I'd love to do is try to have you reflect back a little bit initially on what it was like to take that scary step as an entrepreneur. There was a time before Dogfish Head, and then there was a time that was just after Dogfish Head went from kind of an idea in your heads to actually shipping your first product. And as I said before, the B Lab ventures are all very early stage, for the most part, are pre-product, as you were at the time that you started the company. So I thought it would be interesting just for you to lead us through some of the early, I don't know, ups and downs, the potholes that you drove into, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, great. Well, what I would say, first of all, is where we started Dogfish Head wasn't our original plan. We kind of pivoted in that first year of getting everything ready to open up our business. Our original plan was to open Dogfish Head in downtown Providence, and we were living in Providence and working there while we were writing the business plan and scouting the real estate and all that. And then that, was moving along, but then we had an opportunity in coastal Delaware, which is where I'm from. And so we sort of pivoted the whole plan and, replaced all the Providence, Rhode Islands in the business plan with Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. And then sort of rolled it down there and kept going.
Well, when you said the magic entrepreneurial word pivot, which is a famous vocabulary word in B Lab, because we have lots of pivoting going on, which is very typical of early stage venturing. But when you said it, you weren't talking so much that you were committed to the craft beer thing. I'm understanding it was really that it was a location based pivot as opposed to a product type of pivot. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we were, in our young 20s, early 20s, just out of school a couple of years. So we knew when I started writing the business plan, we were going to start really, really small. And we thought there'd be marketing cachet in being the first brewery to open in a state post-prohibition. And we were on pace to be the first brewery to open in Rhode Island, but then a brewery opened in the train station in downtown Providence, I think called Union Station. And I kind of looked at the map and said, okay, well, what's the next state closest to New England that doesn't have a brewery yet? And serendipitously, it happened to be the state that Mariah grew up in. But we wrote the business plan, and really the point of distinction that we tried to make, knowing that we were going to be small, was to try and find a niche within the craft brewing niche. And our niche was to be the first brewery committed to brewing the majority of our beers, incorporating culinary ingredients into our recipes instead of just water, yeast, hops, and barley, which is in every beer and legally has to be. So right out of the gates, we wanted to marry the world of the American artisanal food movement with the burgeoning craft brewing movement. And that was probably our most significant point of differentiation out of the gates. And I'd also add that if your venture, those of you guys that are aspiring entrepreneurs having a beer with us this afternoon, even if you don't need capitalization, even if you don't need to raise money for what you want to start, the practice of writing a business plan is still invaluable because it forces you to distill your concept into sort of manageable elevator pitch, for what you want to achieve. And at the very least, it becomes a roadmap that you share with your coworkers as you come out of the gates, assuming you don't need to use it to raise money. It's still really important to articulate your vision for what you want to do.
That's interesting. I mean, where did that initial germ of an idea that it wasn't just going to be about hops and water, that you really wanted to do the artisanal thing? Was that something that was kind of like a thing at the time, or not?
Well, I think Mariah and I grew up, from after college, all of her years at Brown and my years in college. We started dating when we were in high school, where I grew up in Western Massachusetts. We went to separate colleges, but in the summers we would come together, and we had summer jobs waiting tables at restaurants. So we were both really into the social space where food meets beverage, and the opportunity to pair them well together. And so I wrote the business plan while I was living in New York City, in the New York City library, pre my knowledge of the internet. So I was kind of doing LexisNexis searches on the early American food movement. People like Alice Waters and James Beard were inspirations, which is also why we chose to open our brewery within a restaurant, so that one kitchen was feeding both the food side of our business and the brewery side.
And from a more practical standpoint, when you have a restaurant, you have cash flow that comes in every day. And so when you're distributing brewery, it can be, 30, 60 longer days until you get cash from when you ship beer, and you actually have to make beer ahead of that. So restaurants, a great cash flow way to get off the ground.
Yeah, that sounds like a business model innovation, that you had something that could actually generate some free cash flow to kind of fund the main thing. Is the restaurant still in business today?
Yep. Yeah, we
is.
Celebrated our 25th anniversary there last week, and we've evolved the building, the structure, but it's in the same place. And
wow.
Yeah, it's the heart. We call it the sort of the heart of our business.
That's fascinating. Well, one of the things that when we've had an opportunity to speak before that I've enjoyed learning about is something that, as kind of a STEM nerd guy myself, I've never really had an opportunity to even think about, and that is branding, and the importance of branding to, as Sam said a moment ago, points of differentiation. And certainly beer is a crowded and noisy marketplace. It was in the 90s. It's especially so now. So tell us a little bit about the role of branding and differentiation, and perhaps in protection of your business.
Yeah, well, as you alluded to, it's gotten a lot more complicated. I think when we opened, there were about 600 independent craft breweries in the United States, and today, well, unfortunately, as of a couple months ago, there were about 8,000.
Wow.
So, who knows how many will survive this current economic situation, because it's quite challenging. But, not only are there 8,000 breweries, but they each make many, many beers. So even sort of the mundane exercise of naming a beer with a name that hasn't already been used by one of the 8,000 breweries producing 15 or 20 beers a year has gotten a lot more complicated.
Wow.
So for us,
are all of your different names and so forth, do you have to go through a trademark search and that kind of thing to make sure you're not infringing?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we don't have to, especially if we're not going to package a beer. If it's only going to be at our brew pub or a tasting room, we really don't have to do that. But we do, because we don't trademark protect it, but we search, because we don't want to step on anyone's toes, even inadvertently, because we don't appreciate it when our toes get stepped on. Right. So we do take that step. And there's a lot of databases out there with all the breweries. There's one called Untapped where people check into their beers. It's like a social app. So there's a lot of easy ways to check names to make sure that you're not sort of
fair enough. Yeah.
Taking a challenge.
Gotcha.
And then maybe just circling back on the developing a brand kind of from the gestation moment, as I think any entrepreneur that's successful starts with a unique idea, and it's usually an idea that you can charge more money for, at least in sort of the CPG world, because odds are if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to start really tiny and you're going to enter a sector dominated by giants. So you got to usually come from a place of designing a concept, a product or a service that's valuable to a premium versus whatever the sort of status quo is of the market leaders in your world. So I think it starts with the concept, and then the name of the company should be complementary to that concept. And then I think developing a brand voice is important, probably now more so ever that social media is probably the most prolific platform to brand as a small company. Having a unique voice along with a unique product proposition, I think is important. And with us, you know, we had this longer Emerson quote that was sort of our guiding principle, but it was too big, too long to fit on a 6-pack. So we shortened it to off-centered ales for off-centered people. And so that mantra kind of shows that we take our mission really serious, but we have sort of a sense of humor about ourselves. So we take what we make really serious, but we don't take ourselves too serious.
Gotcha.
And I think our voice is kind of informed by that process as well. I don't know what you'd add to that about the brand voice.
Yeah, I think it's evolved over time in terms of, you know, it started in a restaurant where we were talking to people across a bar, which was great because they could talk back and it was a conversation.
Great opportunity for bottom-up research, isn't it?
Exactly, we got immediate feedback.
Right.
And then it evolved to going to beer festivals. And then as we started distributing further away, you know, it got harder to talk with people. And so we were doing some print advertising in beer newspapers and stuff like that. And then social media really sort of started to gain a foothold. So we got back to having conversations with people, which was kind of cool. And we just hadn't had that opportunity with people unless we were looking at them before.
Right,
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah, so that was an opportunity for us that we jumped on pretty early.
Right. Well, I suspect people want to know why Dogfish Head. Where did that come from?
So we're actually sitting in the actual spiritual home of Dogfish. If the physical home is Coastal Delaware, where we opened our facilities. It's named after a jut of land, a head of land. People have heard of Hilton Head in the Carolinas. Dogfish Head is a jut of land off of mid-coast Maine near Booth Bay Harbor.
Oh, okay.
That's where Mariah and I are joining you guys from right now. We bought a place here in Dogfish Head, Maine. And in the 25th year, you know, when I said point of differentiation, we opened the brewery inside a restaurant and we wanted to make rustic, you know, local food with rustic, local, unfiltered beer. So day one, we had 2 neons in our window, wood-fired food and homemade beer. And now we have our vacation place here in Maine, but we've installed a little wood oven here and a little R&D brewery here.
Wow.
So we can keep playing around with our original points of inspiration 25 years later to hopefully inform the next 25 years of our creative journey.
That's phenomenal. Did you win a loyal customer base on Dogfish Head in Maine when they realized that, wait a second, there's a brewery in Delaware that's using our geography name?
We did. There's the town that's in Southport, and there's a general store, and they actually sell an inordinate amount of Dogfish Head beer because they're at the head of Dogfish Head Road, and the road sign is right outside of the store. So it's kind of as Sam said, a spiritual home.
And we've been told the road sign here has been stolen like 12 times in the last 20 years. So
well, you have an opportunity for a new form of philanthropy. You can endow the highway signs for Dogfish Head or something, so that whenever they get taken down, they can immediately be put back up again. So that's amazing. Well, so you alluded to an interesting thing that I think we could dig in just a little bit on, which is you guys began Dogfish Head in the pre-internet era, not hugely number of years prior to that. But Mariah, you said a really interesting thing that, you know, in the early going, you could sit across the bar from your customers and have them react to different beers and foods and whatnot. As you grew, obviously, you grew your customer base beyond the opportunity to have that one-on-one relationship. And so I guess I was imagining that the internet was maybe just made it more complicated and more distant and less personal. But and it may do that in part. But you raised an interesting point that maybe it actually re-enabled connections with people, not just who are geographically near to you, but all of your customers anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we have customers that, come to our community in coastal Delaware every year on vacation. So we hear from them as they're planning their vacation, their upcoming vacation, as we're posting beers that might be coming on tap at our pub. Or we also have a hotel, Dogfish Inn in downtown Lewis, Delaware. So we hear from guests who have been to the hotel. When we post a picture, they'll say, "Oh, I remember that, I met Andrew and he was working on the desk, when I checked in." So there's definitely a lot of dialogue, and we spend, a fair amount of our own human resources in terms of making sure that we're not only sharing stories out, but communicating with people when they're sharing back with us and listening.
Right.
So that's been important for us all along.
That's amazing. So one thing that I want to touch on, it's maybe a little less comfortable because I want to take you to areas that you're comfortable speaking about, things that have been challenging. I think it's easy it's a tendency for people to hear a success story like you guys as entrepreneurs, as founders, and Dogfish Head, and your ultimate relationship with Sam Adams, and imagine that it was just this easy, asphalt road from downtown Providence, where you almost cited your initial business, to where you are now. And so I wonder, would you be willing to share a couple of things that were just like, I don't know, I don't want to be over dramatic, but either sort of near death experiences for the business, or things that were just like, wow, that was really hard, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Any favorite war stories?
Well, I would say that I perfected some of my acting abilities a couple years in. So we opened the brew pub, and then a couple years in, we opened a separate production brewery, which is intense, capital intensive. You need lots of stainless steel tanks and packaging lines and all this stuff. So we of course weren't in the proper cash flow position to do that. We just did it, and didn't really know what we weren't thinking through at the time. But so there was a while there where, some folks were saying, "Oh, well, you should probably just close the brewery. That's cash flow negative. Let's focus on the restaurant," which wouldn't have had the growth opportunities that the brewery did. But it also got me to be really good at changing my voice when all the bill collectors would call.
Oh my goodness.
With all the different voices, because they'd be calling, like our grain guy would be calling and going, "Oh yeah, you owe us all this money." And so we got really good at either avoiding the phone or changing our voice when we were answering the phone, so that we didn't have to talk to the bill collector folks.
So Mariah, we need to hear your Sam impersonation right now.
Well, I wouldn't put him on. I would pretend like I was someone that they did not want to talk to.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you occasionally would throw him under the bus. It's like, oh, that was,
Yeah. No. I wouldn't do that.
Right.
But that was fun.
That's amazing.
I'll add one, which is an homage to another Brown graduate, which is Mariah's father, Tom Draper, who went to Brown as well and went on to be a very successful entrepreneur, more in the telecommunications space, but he was on our board and was our original mentor. And I was an English major in college, and math was my absolute worst subject. So I was always focused on building the brand and revenue and the top line of growing our business and getting media coverage and getting national publications to cover our beer, because we couldn't afford traditional advertising. But also, if the New York Times writes about your beer or Food and Wine, it's actually more impactful than if you take out an ad in one of those publications, because people know that you didn't pay for that endorsement. So we were always pretty good at that stuff. But I remember being at a board meeting where Tom Draper was reading, our balance sheet, and was like, "Sam, cash is king, and you got no cash." And that he helped us focus more on the bottom line and give our company more strength to grow in a more sustainable manner. But oftentimes, I think the fact that we did bootstrap it, and for those entrepreneurs listening, was critical to our success in hindsight. Because even in our industry, supply and demand waxes and wanes. And if you go out over your skis too far with too much debt, and you're too beholden to a bank or to investors, you start chasing short money instead of establishing and growing a brand in an authentic way. So I always tell aspiring entrepreneurs, when you write your business plan, don't try and do it around a model of how much money can I raise and be successful. do it under the model of how little money can I raise and be successful, so that you don't have the tail of money wagging the dog of inspiration as you go on your creative journey.
Although you do need cash.
But cash is still king.
I wanted to take you to perhaps a sort of a final type topic, and that's about company culture. We've actually had speakers come to B-Lab this summer and prior summers as well, who have emphasized for our young entrepreneurs how important it is to establish a sense of culture in the organization, and possibly also a cultural position in an industry sector. And I know that that's something that you've spoken about before. Take us a little bit into the early stages of Dogfish culture as a company, and how it's, whether you've been able to maintain it. Has it been a focus for you guys or not?
Yeah, I mean, originally as a restaurant, it was literally all hands on deck, and everyone played such a critical role of every day, like, opening, providing service, providing food, providing beer, and closing. Like, it was a very sort of, we were all visibly connected culture. And as we grew, I think, we worked hard to make sure that we were hiring people that, that could do their job well, and oftentimes were more technical experts than either of us, but that they were also people we wanted to sort of learn from and hang out with and get to know and have a beer with, so that, we could maintain a culture of camaraderie. And, I think that has been important to us over the years to sort of to grow that and to deepen that. And, I think when we do our sort of our pulse surveys with our coworkers every year or two, call them engagement surveys in other companies, but we get a lot of great feedback from people. We listen to that feedback, and we have a culture where we ask people to get involved, and sort of, they can't say, oh, well, Dogfish is growing and the culture is changing, because our message to them is, well, you're part of this change, you're part of this culture.
Gotcha.
And you have to help create that with us. It's not up to us to create it. It's up to us to sort of help nurture it if we can, but it's also going to change over the years, depending on hopefully a more and more interesting and eclectic group of people coming together. Will morph that naturally. And
Sure.
I think that has happened with us a bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'd maybe add, I think Mariah and I, one of our most proud accomplishments, sitting here 25 years to almost to the day from the start of our journey, is neither of us have ever once referred to anyone we work with as our employees. We've called each other coworkers since day one. And, when you're building a culture, for us, for our culture, it's been really critical to just say, respect is org chart blind. And
interesting.
we really empower everyone to act with a sense of ownership of our brand, because, collectively, the people are the brand first and the products are the brand second. And as you alluded to, Jason, we're really proud that we recently did a merger between Dogfish Head and Boston Beer. So we have Sam Adams, we have Dogfish Head, we have Truly Seltzer and Angry Orchard Cider. And Mariah and I, as we engaged with the founder of Boston Beer, Sam Adams, when we started negotiations, we kind of lifted up the hoods of each other's hot rods and kind of checked out what was under the hood. And they had a series of value statements, and we had a series of rules of thumbs, which we've actually put up in Danny's classroom when we've given presentations there.
Interesting.
And our first value or rule of thumb at Dogfish is we are off-centered goodness, and together we are heavy. And the first value at Boston Beer is we are the Boston Beer Company. So in both cases, without knowing it, because those aren't public-facing documents.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
See that both companies considered their people the strength of their brand first before their products. And that was instrumental into giving Mariah and I the confidence that doing this merger would work, not just because our products were complementary, but because our cultures were complementary.
That's terrific. And as you talk about that relationship between the culture of the people and branding, I think that's a really key overlap. We actually have a question in the chat area where they're wondering what the number 1, 2, 3 aspects of creating a brand as a way to differentiate or stand out. It sounds like one of the ways that you guys have discovered is that the very culture of the organization is a big piece of an effective brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it helps to build your, as Sam was alluding to earlier, your voice. I mean, our culture, our people are going to create the voice that is going to become the brand.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, we've unfortunately sort of come to the end of our time together. I want to invite Danny Warshay to join us on video. So Danny, if you could open up your video. Danny is a colleague and a good friend of mine. Danny is my boss in the Nelson Center. He's the executive director of the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship at Brown
No
University.
org charts, just like Sam said. No.
Okay. And we wanted Danny to join us partly to honor our guests, Sam and Mariah, and their wonderful milestones. So Danny, I'm going to turn it over to you to say a couple of things.
Thank you, Jason. Really well done. First of all, I am blown away by looking at the number of participants that are listed here. As I speak, Zoom says there are 138 people online with us right now. And that is an amazing testament, certainly to our guests, because I'm sure that's a big part of the attraction, to our B-Lab participants, to Thorne and his support. So thank you to everybody who has taken part of sort of a random sleepy June afternoon to be with us. I know that we are all on one Zoom call to the next, so it can't be the attraction of being on Zoom. So I'm really psyched and really excited to say a quick welcome to everybody who's with us. I get to see all the people who are actually here, and I recognize so many names of friends. So thank you for all being here. Most of all, I wanted to thank Sam and Mariah for being with us. Mariah, like I am, is a Brown alum, and you are both also, like I am, a Brown parent, and so you have very close ties to Brown. We really consider you part of the Nelson Center family. And that dates back to the earliest days of Nelson. You've been so generous and so kind to be with us, I think, in all of our various venues. I think back to one of the very earliest B-Labs where you spoke. I think back to the Digital Scholarship Lab when we didn't have a home and we were peripatetic and roaming around campus, and you attracted the biggest number of people we had attracted to date at that point. I specifically remember, actually, and you talk about impact, I'm not sure if you realize the impact that you have when you come to speak. You came to speak last November in our beautiful new building, and now you're doing it virtually. I'll just mention one quick anecdote. I had a student, he's actually with us today, I won't embarrass him, but in large part because of one of your presentations. It was the one at the Digital Scholarship Lab at the Rock that he attended, and I remember he was sitting in the very front row. And after that presentation, he rushed up to me and said, I know what I want to do professionally. I've been trying to think of what would really drive my passion. And he said, I want to get involved in the consumer packaged goods business. I heard what Sam and Mariah were saying about their brand and its authenticity and how it represents the core of our products and the culture and values. And that's really what I'd like to do. And that's what he is doing. He searched long and hard for a good job in CPG business. And I just checked his LinkedIn and he's still doing that. So that's one example, but it ripples through our whole Nelson Center culture, that you've been such a generous supporter and having meaningful impact on so many of our students. And that will ripple through the now 138 people who are joined with us today. So I'll just say thank you for all you're doing. And also, I guess I came prepared with some branded paraphernalia.
Oh, nice.
I can wear it and I can drink it. And I hope everybody on the call here will raise a glass or raise a can of whatever you're drinking. Hopefully,
and we invite the student panelists to open your video for a moment. I'm going to pretend. I can only pretend. But go ahead, Danny. Finish your thing. Yeah, we're here.
So here is to Sam, to Mariah and Sam for all the incredible work they've done over 25 years to build such a powerful and authentic brand. So here's to you.
Smile,
Fantastic.
everyone. I'm taking a picture. 1, 2, 3.
All right, and thank you. And we would also like to toast before you throw it all over to the students and all their exciting ventures. And then we look forward to hearing about them for years to come.
Yep. Follow your dreams, fellow entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. And in the mortal words of Miles Davis, don't play what's there, play what's not there.
Fantastic advice. That is wonderful.
Thank you, Thorne. I want some of your sushi someday. Thank you,
Sam,
Danny.
Mariah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great to have an opportunity to chat with you. All right, everyone. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it. So now it's time to hear from the students. And what we're going to do is we just go one right after the other. They're going to be coming up in alphabetical order. If you'd like to follow along, you can go to the Nelson Center website at Brown University and the B-Lab 2020 page. The ventures are shown there in alphabetical order. And so with no further ado, I'm going to have Eddie go ahead and open up your video. And Eddie, when you're ready, take it away. And the rest of you just go one right after the other.
Thank you so much for everyone tuning in. My name is Eddie Ung. I'm the founder of Aridity Capital. And first, I wanted to say thank you to Jason and the B-Lab staff, not just for tonight, but for all your hard work throughout the summer. The entire cohort really appreciates it. When most people think of the stock market, they think of the Wolf of Wall Street. They think of Warren Buffett. They think of millionaires and mansions. The reality is the stock market is one of the greatest creators of inequality in our economy. And people know this. That's why over 2/3 of Americans don't think that the stock market is fair. The reason? Markets are largely inaccessible to the people that can benefit from them the most. And I mean low-income, working-class families. Aridity Capital is addressing this. We are the first financial service institution making markets work for Main Street by providing an investment fund for low-income investors. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? That means providing downside protection. That means professional money management, and that means paying out dividends to our clients. The key, Aridity is a nonprofit organization. We're not looking to drive up fees. We're not looking to drive up commissions. Our goal is our mission. Our mission is to make markets work for people who have been excluded from them throughout its history. Whether your goal is to create a safety net or a nest egg, or it's to create wealth, not just for this lifetime, but for future generations, Aridity Capital is here to help. So if you'd like to talk more about the ways that we are reimagining markets to work for low-income families, I would love to talk.
Hi, my name is Hillary Brame, and I'm the founder of Bittersweet. You might not be surprised to hear that there's 135 billion pets in the US. We love our animals. From turtles and parakeets to cats and dogs, having a pet is an extremely fulfilling experience, but it can also be really difficult. I'm especially thinking of end-of-life care and death. And because the majority of our pets will be euthanized in place of dying naturally, it's really important for us pet owners to be empowered and comfortable making decisions during this time. This is probably why veterinarians and pet owners routinely identify end of life as the most important part of a pet's life. But even if you have the most ideal experience, your animal has a good death, your vet is amazing, this can be really hard for the pet owner. At Bittersweet, we aim to make this easier. Our products make death more comfortable and dignified for an animal, but they also empower and make more comfortable for the pet owner this experience. We offer a variety of products, including pet beds and blankets that transition to burial containers and shrouds. Objects that make this more dignified, but also just take some of the pressure off. and allow humans to focus more on their emotional connection to their animal. Bittersweet is here because pet loss is the loss of a family member. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ritam, and I'm the founder of Callisto. Now, the story of Callisto begins with the story of Marissa, whose name has been changed to protect her identity. Now, Marissa was the survivor of both domestic and sexual abuse from the very boyfriend that she lived with. But when she went to go and report this to the hospital and had her sexual assault advocate be called in, she still wasn't able to be matched with the mental health resources that she was eligible for. Now, the reason for this was that the sexual assault advocate was given 14 different pamphlets and trifolds that they couldn't keep track of. And unfortunately for them, it was Marissa who paid the ultimate price that night. And even beyond that, when Marissa was trying to find a safe shelter to relocate to, she didn't have much luck there because Marissa was told that she had to call each of the 6 different shelters in Providence 4 to 5 times each every single day. And tragically, that night, Marissa had to go back home to her abusive boyfriend, not because of a lack of beds in the shelters, but for the simple yet damning reason that she didn't call a shelter at the right time. Now, I know this all because it was me who was Marissa's advocate, and I saw how not only the system failed her, but I myself as the advocate had failed her as well. And I created Callisto as a response. Now, Callisto is essentially a platform to empower survivors, and it has 2 main components. A resource matching component, which provides and matches each survivor with medical, financial, and legal aid that they qualify for, and a shelter matching component, which is a platform where shelters can list their available beds each night, and survivors can get immediate notifications when there's a spot for them. So join us and help our cause. Help us cut out the middlemen and put the power back in the hands of the survivor. So no person like Marissa ever has to spend another night with an abusive boyfriend again, wondering if things would be different had they just made one more call. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Justin, and I'm one of the co-founders of Crest Health. And here at Crest, we're tackling one of the biggest problems in healthcare, which is healthcare worker burnout. And to briefly explain burnout, it's a psychological condition caused by chronic workplace stress that costs hospitals billions of dollars each year in lost productivity. Now, as a student enrolled in Brown University's combined medical program, I was absolutely shocked to learn that over 50% of healthcare workers are affected by burnout. And unfortunately, this has only been exacerbated by the additional stress and trauma caused by COVID-19. So right now, the current golden standard for reducing burnout is in-person peer support groups, but they have major limitations that really prevent their sustained adoption. Mainly, these limitations are, number 1, a lack of time for healthcare workers because of their busy schedules, and number 2, the fear of career-sensitive stigma that follows whenever they actually use these resources. And that's why we designed a new wellness app, the Crest app, that addresses these limitations. We do this by offering a mobile platform that combines confidential peer support with data-driven mental wellness journaling so that healthcare workers can get the support that they deserve. Our product improves their mental wellness during this absolutely pivotal time, raises the quality of patient care, and finally saves the employers millions of dollars. We believe that by using the Crest app, our healers can finally start to heal themselves, and in doing so, increase the quality of care for everyone. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alvia Perez, and I'm the founder of Empower You. Empower You is an educational tech platform that works to help address educational disparities. It achieves this by connecting students all across the nation to have access to incredible resources and tools they need to obtain higher education and to essentially go on to improve the quality of their lives. There are more than 10 million low-income students in the US, and only 1 in 10 of these students end up enrolling to college. I'm one of them. I'm a first-generation low-income student who attended a large public high school that was very underfunded. I got very lucky in the sense that I had an incredible friend who told me about Brown, and she introduced me to the amazing scholarships and financial aid opportunities available for students just like me. Students should not have to get lucky to have access to higher quality education. Empower You believes that education is the best catalyst for social mobility, and we know that it's one of the best and most effective tools to addressing so many of the inequalities we see in today's society. We strive to empower youth and to change the world through education, one student at a time. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is Joshua Daniel and I'm a co-founder of Instance along with my partner Grace Choi. We've realized that businesses have a problem. Workplaces are undergoing dramatic changes in the way they're structured. Most of us are now sitting, faces glued to Zoom, for 8 hours a day. But now here's the issue. It's becoming increasingly understood that sitting is the new smoking. Grace and I are biomedical engineering graduate students, and we're tackling this crisis. Businesses care about employee health as well as the cost of insurance. We're working to ensure that businesses are no longer asking their employees to take on smoking a pack of cigarettes for 8 hours every day. Leveraging biomechanical insights, we're developing low-cost hardware and software solutions to improve things like muscle tone and lower extremity blood circulation. It's not going to be another bulky, distracting contraption with a high cognitive load, nor some stupid alarm. We're taking a more sophisticated approach. A combination of floor-based sensors and mobile-based phone applications with a low friction to adoption. Grace and I are looking forward to chatting with you more about our venture.
Good afternoon. I'm Diana Perkins, the co-founder and CEO of LabSnap, a Rhode Island-based product design company with the goal of creating products that empower individuals with disabilities around the world. Disabled populations of all types face many challenges when navigating the built environment. But surprisingly, wheelchair users cite shopping as the #1 most difficult aspect of their day-to-day lives. You would be shocked at how difficult it is for many wheelchair users to go shopping for groceries and other essentials on their own. This is because they need to hold the items on their lap while also pushing their chair. Many of them get a spouse, child, or caretaker to do it for them, but this limits their independence. Unfortunately, most products meant for wheelchair users can only be used by individuals who use a specific brand or type of chair. Therefore, our biggest goal when considering how we could improve the grocery shopping experience for wheelchair users was to make sure our product would work for anyone, regardless of what kind of wheelchair they used. So, we've created our flagship product, the LabSnap, the world's only shopping basket designed with and for wheelchair users. It's a bag with a versatile attachment mechanism that allows you to carry items hands-free. With the LabSnap, we aim to help wheelchair users expand their independence by enabling them to do more tasks by themselves, including shopping, doing laundry, gardening, going to a farmer's market, household chores, or even apple picking. If you'd like to learn more about the LabSnap or meet my co-founders, Chloe and Hannah, please come to our breakout room at the end of the session and learn how you can help us make the world more accessible for everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Du, founder of My Cycle Kit, and I want to address a problem that directly impacts half of the world's population, the first menstruation. If you ask any woman about the first time they got their period, I bet you'll hear lots of stories of confusion, stress, embarrassment, or terror. In fact, in the US, 48% of women say that they've never had a conversation about the period or what to expect before it happened. I vividly remember many worries I had at the time. How should I talk to my male teachers when I need to go to the bathroom? My friends' periods are pretty regular right now, but mine still isn't. Shall I be worried? What is PMS and do I have it? As someone recently said to me in an interview, it was a stressful and lonely time. But it shouldn't be. First, it is a perfectly normal biological event. Think about it. If our moms didn't get their period, we wouldn't even be here. Second, it is a milestone of maturity that is worth appreciating and celebrating. In my Cycle Kit, I want to transform that experience from negative to positive. The product I'm designing is the ultimate gift box with online components that girls love and parents trust. We offer everything from online crash courses to an interactive diary book to down-to-earth Q&As based on interviews with physicians, child psychologists, and women like myself who have been through puberty and have things to share. Awkward school health classes, heavily commercialized period product companies, or those 20-minute hectic visits with family doctors are not solving the entire problem. So here we are.
Hi everyone, my name is Asha and I'm a co-founder of the venture Peel. We have a mental health care crisis in this country. There is simply a massive need and a finite small amount of resources. For example, 60% of counties in the US don't have a single practicing psychiatrist. This is where Peel comes in. Peel is here to bridge the gap between need and resources. Peel is a mobile app where every day you're provided different tools and activities ranging from coping exercises to grounding activities to interesting articles personalized towards symptoms you're experiencing, along with discussion spaces. We provide spaces where you're able to connect with people of similar identities and experiences, and you can not only commiserate about your mental health issues, you can also celebrate your victories. We've talked with numerous students across college campuses, and they all have shared many of the same problems. They struggle for years digging through the internet trying to find depression quizzes or self-care tips, but they end up feeling alone because their family and friends don't openly talk about mental health because of the stigma. And that community support is so important. With Peel, we're building a positive space where people can talk about their issues in a healthy manner. Peel is more than a self-help app, it's a community.
Hi, my name is Maggie Backenberg, and today I'm going to tell you about my venture, Points. So if you've paid attention to the news lately, you've probably seen that many Americans are turning to bikes and other forms of micromobility like skateboards or scooters as forms of recreation, transportation, and exercise during the pandemic. But even in a pre-pandemic world, over 100 million Americans each year used different forms of micromobility to get around. And I interviewed about 100 of these cyclists last spring, and I asked them what their biggest concern was. I repeatedly got the answer that safety was a big concern. And specifically, people were worried about how car trafficked the roads that they were on and the intersections that they would be encountering, because this is where the most car and bike accidents happen. They were also concerned about the actual quality of the roads and whether there were potholes or cracks. So I asked myself if we could come up with a tech solution that would solve this problem of getting somebody from point A to point B in a safe manner. And this is when I came up with Points. Points is a mapping app that allows people to crowdsource local riders can crowdsource safety information and takes into account real-time car traffic data and routes people away from the really busy streets and the dangerous streets and onto a safe path to their destination. In a time where most people want apps to be free, it can be really difficult to find a way to make money off of something like this. And Points is on top of this, and we have a ready customer for our high value micromobility data. So if you'd like to learn more about our innovative business model or just about Points in general, please join me in the breakout session after this.
Hi, I'm Dana Beakley-Spezial, and I'm proud to be a PhD student in chemical biology and co-founder of Silly Store. For new moms, convenience is everything. Unfortunately, breastfeeding, especially for working moms, is anything but convenient. Moms have to pump several times throughout the workday into plastic bottles, transfer the milk from bottles into the equivalent of a 6-ounce Ziploc bag to store the milk, and then transfer the milk into another bottle to feed the baby. This transaction costs 3 dishes and the disposal of 2 single-use plastic bags. The key word being plastic. Plastic has been known to leach endocrine-disrupting chemicals, which are especially harmful to infants. Yet virtually no other option exists for moms who pump and store their milk. On top of that, an estimated 13 billion breast milk storage bags are thrown out in the United States, Canada, and Europe each year and end up in the landfill and the ocean. And as a company, we value all mothers, including Mother Nature. And that's where we come in. Silly Store offers convenience and freedom and helps moms save time, freezer space, and reduce plastic waste by providing a food-safe, pump, store, feed, all-in-one reusable breast milk storage system that keeps track of inventory to ensure the oldest milk is always accessible. Our food-safe material is FDA approved and has been shown across many studies to not leach chemicals, and it's dishwasher safe. Say goodbye to plastic and crying over spilled milk, and say hello to breastfeeding reimagined. I invite you to discuss a winning proposition to support breastfeeding moms with me afterwards.
Hi, my name is William Yang. I am one of the co-founders of Time Spent. My parents immigrated to the States with a very limited understanding of English. Even today, I constantly need to help them fill out forms, respond to emails, and pay bills. But these are only a few of the many problems that immigrants and refugees face. Many immigrants and refugees arrive to the US without a network of friends and family. They often struggle to make connections and are frequently isolated and lonely. And this issue is even worse in the world of COVID-19. This is where Time Spent comes in, providing an online space in which low English proficiency immigrants and refugees can meet volunteers to practice English conversations, receive help with understanding paper forms, and ask questions they have about American culture and customs. The process is simple. First, we provide a background check for all potential mentors and mentees. Then, we pair committed volunteers with immigrants and refugees with the most need. We provide both parties with guidance and resources so that volunteers are equipped to help and mentees feel supported and empowered. In short, we help immigrants and refugees communicate in English, adjust to life in the US, and build a supportive network. We would love to talk with anyone who is interested in language learning and immigrant and refugee resources.
Hi everyone, my name is Lauren Brown and I'm the founder of Textured, a venture that's reimagining the hair care space for women with Afro textured hair. When I was 17, I ran away to New York and cut off most of my hair, and it was the first time that I was actually embracing my naturally curly hair. But I had absolutely no idea how to take care of it. This meant spending countless hours on YouTube and other online resources looking at product recommendations and style tutorials, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was overwhelmed, I was spending a lot of money on products, and I was very, very stressed out. And after talking to over 50 women, I realized that my experience was not unique. On average, Black women spend 2 years trying to find the right combinations and the right routine to fit their hair and their life. And that's where Textured comes in. Textured wants to make hair care flexible and personal. And we want to take that 2 years and cut it down to just 90 days. The key way to do that for us is making sure that our users have an active way to give feedback on all the products that we give them, so that the moment that a product is not working for them, a shampoo or conditioner, they can automatically swap it out over the 90 days until they find the perfect mix for them. Here at Textured, we believe that women should have access to healthy hair without sacrificing their time and their energy. And we want our users to worry less about their hair and to spend more time focusing on what matters most to them. I love to talk all things hair, so if anyone wants to come up to my Zoom room afterwards, I'd be happy to chat more. Thank you.
We've all participated in an event, whether it's hosting a workshop, attending a professional event, or maybe something more casual with friends. For some reason, communicating information about the event is really hard. For event planners, we know how challenging it can be getting all of our friends and colleagues on the same page, having to relay information back and forth across multiple channels from Slack to email, text, and back. Yeah. And for attendees, it's extremely difficult getting a grasp of all the events happening around you, almost forcing you to bounce between social media platforms. But what if there were a simpler way to manage event communications? One that didn't force you to endlessly relay information and didn't require you to bounce around different platforms. That's exactly what we're working on at Yubica. At Yubica, we're building an online forum that allows people to create and share events quickly and easily. But beyond that, we help make an event truly yours with useful features like ticketing and analytics. So what does that look like? For the event planner, simple event collaboration. And for the attendee, a central hub of events based on the communities you follow. So as soon as you create an event, you can get started working on the details with your friends and colleagues right in the app. And when you publish, you can pick and choose which communities you'd like to share it to. If you want to keep everyone on the same page and no one out of the loop, start with Yubica. I'm Sam signing off. I hope to see you in the breakout room.
Most people who play poker just want to have fun and gamble casually. But online casinos are dangerous, uninviting places for the recreational player. This is something I know firsthand because while other people were partying in college, I was playing online poker, preying on these people into the night, always studying how to get better. People like me are really bad for the experience of recreational players. This is a big problem for poker sites since players who lose money are by definition the only people who deposit money on the site. In other words, recreational players are the single biggest limiting factor for how big a poker site can get. But because poker sites are so centralized, they can't handpick who gets to play in their games. As a result, poker websites have become flooded with professionals and have become inhospitable to inexperienced players. That's why rather than create another poker site, I'm creating an ecosystem. I'm creating a platform that allows people to create, customize, and monetize their own poker rooms so they can become the owners of their own small-scale casinos. There are a few advantages to this model. First, by allowing for decentralization, we create direct and nimble competition between our operators, meaning more innovation, more variation, and cheaper prices for players. Second, decentralization means our operators cater more discriminately to consumer segments. For recreational players, for instance, our operators will finally be able to stop players like me from joining. In doing so, they'll be able to create social communities in stark contrast to the dingy, asocial, and scary atmospheres of poker websites today. Anyway, thanks everybody for tuning in. And on behalf of the cohort, we want to thank Professor Harry and the rest of the staff for hosting all of this and giving us this platform.
You guys, I'm so proud. I'd like all of the students to open their videos so that everyone who's attending can see. So that you can see what I get to see every day. These are so smart. They're so dedicated. They're dreamers, and they're helping us to see a different future. That's what makes working with entrepreneurs of any stripe, whether they're young or old, so gratifying. We get to see a glimpse of the future. So I take my hat off to, well, I don't have a hat, but metaphorically, I take my hat off to each and every one of you. Just did a phenomenal job of describing your ventures. So thank you for that. For the attendees, that's the end of the formal event for the B-Lab debut. As I mentioned earlier on, we do have an opportunity for you to meet with the entrepreneurs in a much more intimate setting, which is basically their own personal Zoom rooms. We're going to put into the chat window here in Zoom it's a shortened bit.ly address that should take you to a Google Doc in which you'll see 15 separate Zoom URLs that you could go to at your discretion to chat with the ventures. We hope that we've got the tech organized that when this meeting ends here, that you'll still be able to see the Google Doc, even if you don't have access to the link. Let me thank each of you for coming in to see these ventures do their presentation. I can't tell you how much it means to them to have an opportunity to speak to you. As Danny mentioned, we had over 100 visitors from all over the country, probably all over the world, tuning in to see these ventures do their thing. And so it's so important for you to have done that. And I want to express my personal gratitude for you taking time out of your day for yet one more Zoom meeting. So with no further ado, I'm going to call an end to this event, and we look forward for you to see an opportunity to see these entrepreneurs and maybe some others in the fall when we will be doing a Breakthrough Lab showcase, and you'll see even more progress made on each of these ventures in the future. So that's all for now from Providence, from Chicago, from Boston, from LA, and many other places. That's it for the Breakthrough Lab 2020 at this point. Thanks again for tuning in.